Picture this. You find the property, the one you've been looking for since you've decided you were done with the city. 5 acres, mature trees, views, a shop, maybe a creek running through the back, and the price actually makes sense. You put in an offer, you get it accepted, you close. Day one of working from home, you open your laptop, you pull up your first video call, and you watch the screen freeze, then buffer, then drop entirely. You have no internet, not even slow internet, not inconvenient internet, no internet. And here's the part that's going to sting. Your agent didn't know. Your inspector didn't flag it. Of course not. And the listing didn't mention it because in Washington State, internet service is not a required disclosure. I've seen this happen, and it doesn't have to. So in the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to give you the full truth about internet connectivity in Kitsap County. The dead zones, the providers, what Starlink actually does and doesn't solve, and exactly what you need to do before you make an offer on any rural property in this market. Here's what most people assume when they're shopping for rural property in Kitsap. It's 2026. Everybody has internet. I'll just get Starlink if nothing else works. That is the dominant belief. And Starlink has become the magical answer to every rural connectivity concern. People hear Starlink and they stop worrying. But here's what I know from working this market. Internet connectivity in Kitsap County's rural areas is one of the most inconsistent, misunderstood, and under-verified purchase conditions in the entire region. Starlink does not work everywhere. Tree canopies matter enormously here in the Pacific Northwest. Cable infrastructure doesn't reach large sections of the rural county, and 4G LTE or 5G home internet has real coverage gaps the second you get off a paved state route. So the good news, every single one of these issues is solvable if you know what to look for and when. I'm James Bergstrom, broker and owner of Paramount Real Estate Group here in Kitsap County. And I have sat with buyers at closing tables on rural properties and heard them ask for the first time whether they should have verified the internet before signing. And that's a conversation that should happen before the offer, not after the close. Let's start with Starlink because it's the answer most buyers default to. Typical download speeds, it's 100 to 250 megabits per second. Upload, 10 to 30 megabits. Latency, 25 to 50 milliseconds. That's versus 600 plus milliseconds for old satellite internet. The difference is everything on a video call. Equipment, roughly $350 to $600 to buy. Monthly service, around $120. Month to month, no contract. For 1 or 2 remote workers on video calls and cloud tools, Starlink is genuinely functional when it works. So here's the part the marketing doesn't emphasize. Starlink requires an unobstructed view of the sky, specifically the northern sky, roughly a 100-degree cone above the horizon. In Phoenix or Eastern Washington, that's easy, but in Kitsap County, you're looking at 200-foot Douglas firs, 150-foot western red cedars, the dense mixed canopy forest that blocks the horizon on 3 sides of a typical rural parcel. The Starlink app has a free check for obstructions feature. So before you make an offer on any rural property, run that app from the proposed dish location. Less than 5% obstruction, excellent. 5 to 20%, it's workable with occasional interruptions. Over 20%, meaningful impact, research pole mount options. So Kitsap County has a patchwork internet infrastructure where you buy determines what you can get. So Comcast Xfinity, which is the best case scenario, you get 400 megabits per second to a gigabit for $50 to $80 per month. The problem, cable runs along primary corridors. So if you turn off onto a gravel road a mile in, cable typically ends. CenturyLink Quantum Fiber in urban cores is really excellent. Rural CenturyLink is DSL on aging copper. So often that tops out at 10 to 25 megabits per second down and 1 to 5 megabits per second up. T-Mobile home internet, cellular getaway device, it's typically 100 to 300 megabits per second in good coverage areas. Coverage drops sharply in valleys, behind ridges, or in dense forest. Important caveat for all providers. Coverage maps are optimistic. Always test the actual signal at the property before you buy. There are real geographic areas in this county where connectivity goes thin. Let me tell you where they concentrate. Deep valleys and ridge-cut properties. Kitsap has a ridge and valley terrain from a glacial geology. Properties at the bottom of a valley or on the backside of a ridge from the nearest cell tower often have dramatically reduced signal. Areas to watch: creek drainages, Wildcat Lake and Lake Symington corridor, Tahuya River Valley parcels, steep sections of the Seabeck Highway corridor, rural North Kitsap beyond the service corridors. So once you get off on Bond Road, Hansville Road, or Highway 3, the cable drops fast. Hood Canal corridor, Seabeck, Hawley, Tahuya, Belfair areas. More rugged terrain, historically limited cable infrastructure. So if you're looking at Hood Canal waterfront or acreage, internet verification is non-negotiable. South Kitsap rural properties off Highway 16, the Banner Road area, Olalla, the rural Southworth corridor, it has basically patchwork coverage. So the bottom line, within half of a mile of a major state route, SR3, SR16, SR303, Highway 104, your options are usually reasonable. The risk zone is rural parcels on county roads, more than a mile from a primary corridor. Hey, real quick, if you're watching this because you're actually thinking about making a move to Washington State, I put together a free Washington State relocation guide. It's in the description below. Grab it now, and please keep watching. Let me give you the actual numbers on what remote workers need. Standard video call on Zoom or Teams, 3 to 5 megabits both ways. High definition video call, 1080p, 5 to 8 megabits both ways. Screen sharing during a video call, add 2 to 3 megabits of upload on top. Cloud file sync in the background, add 2 to 10 megabits of upload. VPN connection adds 20% overhead across everything. So 2 people in the house, both on call simultaneously, 15 to 20 megabits both ways minimum. The key insight: upload speed matters just as much as download for remote workers. Starlink at 100 to 250 megabits down, 20 to 30 up, fine for most single remote workers. 25 megabits down, 5 megabits up, DSL function for a single call. So if you add activity, the quality drops. 10 megabits down, 1 megabits up, DSL. Not workable for modern remote work, period. Know your number and what are your download and upload speeds. What's peak simultaneous usage? Do you use a VPN? If yes, add 20%. Even if you solve your primary internet problem, you need a backup. Kitsap County's Pacific Northwest, you will have power outages, typically multiple times per year in rural areas. Your internet equipment depends on power, so when the power goes out, your internet goes out too. Cellular data backup, mobile hotspot or dedicated cellular router. The key caveat is most hotspot plans cap at 50 to 100 gigabytes of high-speed data per month. So during an extended outage, that disappears fast. UPS battery backup keeps your router and modem running 1 to 3 hours through short outages. The gold standard is dual provider strategy. Primary Starlink, backup T-Mobile home internet, or if you have cable, primary cable, backup Starlink. The cost is around $170 per month for a dual provider setup. For most remote workers, trivial compared to a missed workday or dropped client call. If you're buying rural Kitsap property, the internet conversation and the generator conversation happen at the same time. A whole home generator is $5,000 to $15,000 installed. It keeps your office fully operational through any outage. This is the section that matters most. 8 steps, 20 minutes. Step 1, run the Comcast Xfinity address check before the showing. Note, the service type returned, not just available or not. A gigabit cable is not the same as 25 megabits per second DSL. Step 2, run the CenturyLink Quantum Fiber address check. If DSL result, call and ask what is the maximum speed available at this address. Step 3, check T-Mobile home internet availability. Run their address level availability checker and note the estimated speed tier. Step 4, run the Starlink obstruction app on site. This requires a showing. Download the Starlink app, free. Stand where a dish would go. Run the obstruction scan. Less than 5% obstruction. Excellent. 5 to 20%. Workable. Over 20%? Research pole mount options. Step 5. Check your cell signal on site. Walk the property with your phone. Check signal bars. Run a speed test with the Ookla app. That gives you a real-world cellular speeds at the location. Step 6. Check physical infrastructure on the road. Look at the utility poles. Aerial coaxial cable lines on poles indicate cable infrastructure is present. Step 7. Ask the listing agent directly what internet provider does the current homeowner use and what speed tier. A remote working seller knows the answer. Step 8. Consider a connectivity contingency in the offer. For uncertain properties, this gives you the right to test and back out during the inspection period. 8 steps, 20 minutes on every rural property you're serious about. That's a cheap insurance on a several $100,000 purchase. So before I close this out, if you're doing serious research on a move to Washington State, the free Washington State relocation guide in the description covers the entire decision. Regions and real estate and cost of living, it's there. So grab it, download it, watch it. All right, let's land this. Internet connectivity in rural Kitsap County is real. It's solvable and it's absolutely something you can navigate. So if you know what to look for, Starlink is legitimate, but it's not magic. Verify on site before you commit, all right? The provider landscape is a patchwork. You know what's available at your specific address. The dead zones follow geographical patterns, valleys, ridgeback properties, parcels of the primary state routes. The bandwidth matters, so you know your numbers before you evaluate any service. The pre-purchase checklist is 8 steps, 20 minutes, do it every time. If you came into this video worried that rural Kitsap might mean choosing between your dream property and your ability to work, well, I hope this gave you the framework to stop worrying and start verifying. The infrastructure gap is real, but it's shrinking, and the tools available right now have made rural remote work more viable than at any point in the history of this county. The Pacific Northwest is waiting. You just need to know what you're stepping into. And if this video helped you, please hit subscribe and drop a comment below telling me what part of Kitsap you're considering and why. And share this with someone else planning a move to Washington State. There's more where this came from. Thank you so much for watching.